not, for any reason, ever share your private keys, passphrases, passwords, or click suspicious links. Everyone all the time is trying to steal your stuff, so go slow and be careful. There's no point making all this money just to give it to a thief.
All right, let's see. That's a good one. What's going on? Other than the obvious, Mrs. Lincoln, how was the play? Yeah, you guys want to do a funny experiment? Go look at what the price impact of buying one masternode's worth of tokens is right now. So for those that were asking, why are you guys stabilizing the price of the node licenses? Well, because we can't stabilize the price of the tokens, and the float of the tokens, this is Hypercycle specifically, there are not enough tokens on the, what it is, there are enough tokens eventually. There are not enough right now tokens. And as more people figure that out and they have node licenses and they want to marry their tokens into node licenses, they're going to realize that there is not these tokens. So, I mean, the free float, the float of the token right now, what is circulating supply max somewhere between 49 and 59 million tokens. So just like do the math. If there's 250,000 licenses that have been sold, 250,000 times 1,024. Anytime you go 1,000 and 1,000, that's a million. So you have a need for a little bit more than 250, say 260 million tokens. So if you need 260, let's make it simple. So all you home gamers, if you need 260 and you have 50, what is the deficit? Bueller. A lot. 250 minus 60, 260 minus 50. Yeah, you get between 2 and 210. Again, I don't know the exact, I don't think anybody has the exact number. We know that the max circulating supply is like 59 or something like that. Yeah, some marginal, but yeah. So, which means, so now divide, go the other way. What is 50 into 260? It's about 1 for 5, right? So for every 5 hypercycle tokens needed right now, just to fill the node licenses that are already owned by private people, and you have to assume that most people that own node licenses intend to use them. So go on and do the math. 5 and change, yes. So if, I mean, this is, go look at the show we did last week on micro, little e economics. This is a demand-driven supply shock. And if demand increases and supply is the same, what do you think is going to happen to El Precio? I mean, you can do the experiment yourself. you can go to, let me see if I can pull it up. Let me go to Pancake. Have some fun. Let's go BSC chain. Well, I don't want to, I'm not going to connect my wallet, but we can do some, we can have some fun. You want to see something that's crazy? I mean, this is just on the BNB side. We'd have to add the token. Let's go to the ETH side, where it may be easier. I'd have to add it. I'm not going to go through all that while we're live, but if you look at the, if you want to just go set up one of these, somebody who's got this open, go and set up a transaction where you're swapping from ETH to Hypercycle, or sorry, Hypercycle to USDT, or USDT to Hypercycle. And you're going to see that the price impact is massive. If you wanted to use one node, like one node master license. So meaning if you wanted to buy enough tokens to fill one master node, which is 524,288 tokens, look at the price impact. Last night, Brandon and I were doing it, and it was like 67%. And the price impact for two master nodes, there wasn't, you could not do the transaction. So, I mean, kind of common sense, right? At least until the demand is filled, you can go, let me see. Ooh, Bitcoin's having a decent day. We're not going to go through market stuff. We're going to talk game theory today, and I'll answer some questions and stuff like that. Everything's pretty quiet, except for this. So, I mean, like, do the math. Do the math. So I would just urge people to kind of think about these things. This wasn't hard to see coming. And also, I don't think people have really figured this out yet, because you still see people doing technical analysis in the chat groups and stuff. And you're like, what are you guys doing? It's so stupid. You're just like, you want to save people from themselves, but if you can't shake someone and like dunk them in cold water, there's not much you can do. And Dale, this is not FOMO either. It's not FOMO when you have a supply shock. A supply shock is just an imbalance in supply and demand. This isn't FOMO. It's not fear of missing out. It's there are no tokens. They don't exist. You can't get them. They're locked up in smart contracts, or they're not available, period, full stop. So what happens is as the price goes up, invariably, some people that said, I'm not selling, go, well, I guess I'll sell some, because one person's entrance is another person's exit, right? And so you will unearth sellers. Diamond hands get more papery and soft and pillowy as the price goes up, as you all know. But the people that bought, let's say on day one, they bought at 5.5 or 6 or 10 cents. If you bought at 10 cents, you're nipping on the edge of a 10x. Well, my guess is at $1, some people will take some profit, and that will look like a good decision if the price doesn't go to $1.50 or $2. And then they would look back with some kind of fond lament and say, man, I wish. So everybody exits on someone else's entrance for whatever reason. But forget about all of those dynamics. Just think, it's simply this. There's a vacuum right now. And the vacuum is the 5-to-1 Hypercycle token to necessity situation. So just keep that in mind for Hypercycle. 96. So I don't know where this levels out. My thoughts were, and I've said this for a long time, the $1 to $3 range in March, like March. Well, it looks like that that $1 range is probably early. I also didn't realize the gravity. I've known about the imbalance in node licenses and tokens for a while. It didn't really click to me that other people, that the crowd would find this imbalance as quick as we found it. So anyway, it's worked out well for a lot of people. But yeah, so for those of you that have the tokens to marry to your licenses, just, I'm not telling you what to do with your currency units, but slow down. Don't try to game the market. There's a lot of people that were trying to game this. Oh, I saw people at 65 cents. Time to sell. No, man. When a market is just burgeoning, just being created, just expanding, don't try to game it. 4 months is not enough flipping data. We talked about time series data. 4 months is not enough to do technical analysis. What are you trying to do technical analysis before a network even goes live? You're a flipping dummy. I'll say it. You are a dummy. There's not enough data. There's not enough data in the whole history of crypto for technical analysis to work. You need business cycles. You need full business cycles, many of them, to have any time series data. We did a show specifically about that. That has utility. Fibonacci retracements, sunflowers, solar flares, and all this other bull smoke is not going to help you do anything but get left behind. Go look at all of those tweets from people that were like, oh man, I'm not sticking around for Bitcoin to go back down to 15 cents. I'm selling out at $1.10. $1.10. Get the flip out. What do you think? What do you think those people think right now? Those dudes that got out at $1.10 and then they saw Bitcoin hit $69,000. Stupid. Why? Because there was not enough data to draw reasonable, sensible conclusions. And if you believe in something, just sit back, man. Just sit back and water it. I'll tell you how I got rich. You know? Mindset. Rich and wealth. Me and one of the DPCs and I were just talking about this. Rich, wealth, all of it. It's a mindset. It's a set of tools that you use and you execute. We're going to talk about that today when we talk about game theory. Rich is a mindset. Wealth is a mindset. Failure is also a mindset. If you think you're going to fail at something, you're going to find out you're right. If you think you're going to succeed, you're probably going to find out you're right. You want to know the secret to the secret? You don't need to read the book, The Secret. I mean, apparently all you have to do is take out a picture of a Ferrari and put it on your refrigerator. That's what they'll have you believe if you read the book. But if you start behaving as such, like what would just always think, what would someone smarter than myself do? So I just think like, what would Tufi and Ben and Dan, what would they do? Just what would they do? Do you think any of those dudes have any notion of selling anything when they're thinking of like what the world looks like 3, 4, 5 years from now? And also keep in mind, if this is your last, this may be all of our last at bat as investors. Let's be honest. Do you think any of us are going to be competing with the robots? Flip no. So if this is our last at bat, if we have maybe 36 months left, period, full stop. Do you want to be embedded in infrastructure, the infrastructure of potentially an AI, like the rails of a lot of AI commerce, or do you want to be trading in and out and all that bullcrap? That's not a long-term mindset, bro. That is a very short-term, very finite goal. And again, like I just had a buddy of mine who's like, dude, why don't you just pull like some money out and all this kind of stuff? I'm like, well, one, we've only just gotten started. I'm not going to be the Bitcoin dude. Many of you know this. You know, I've not pulled $1 out of crypto ever. None. Like none. I lent some money to get some reward back. I've not pulled $1 out of crypto ever. I've been in the space since 2014. not $1. And yeah, so because I believe in it, I'm not telling anybody else to do this. I'm just saying this is where I'm at in my head. I'm trying to see the world 2-3 years ahead. But anyway, and the underlying thinking is game theory, right? Which we're going to talk about. Anyway, I just want people to understand, please look at, and again, for many of you, because everybody has different life scenarios and situations, for many of you, hey, listen, you're like, look, I made X amount that pays for my air conditioning to get fixed or whatever. Like, hey, you got to do what's best for you. For me, I say, yeah, but see, yes, I've taken my inside crypto exits back to stablecoin, but I've never exited any of that money to the free world. Chase Bank has not seen $1 from crypto. Money only goes one direction from JP Morgan Chase, into Chase and out of Chase. And that's in through whatever clients I have that still pay me terrestrial dollars, and out to Coinbase, where it is immediately transferred. If I'm just going to sit on it and wait, it's going to go into USDC and it's going to sit and collect 5%. But most likely it's going to go into one of my whatever where we're at in the portfolio. The point is we're not there yet. We don't even have a fully formed crypto market and things like that. I think it would make sense. It would make sense for everybody to just think a little bit ahead of the curve that's right in front of you. Think, just think a little bit out into the future. I would urge you. There's going to be a lot of people that look back on this part of, 6 months from now, a lot of people are going to look back with a lot of choices have consequences. Let's just say that. Okay. Let me see. Freddie had a question. Freddie, I see on PowerTrade that a 2-node license is $260. Can I buy this node without owning tokens? Yes, you can. Yes, you can buy the node licenses. You'll be able to lend the node licenses. So that's kind of cool too. You'll lend it. For instance, HyperPG has 100 million tokens at their disposal. They'll need to grab those licenses. So for those of you that have licenses and not tokens, you're fine. I would rather have both. I would rather marry them, but you can still monetize. That's the whole beauty of this. The way that Tufi and Dan and this whole team and Ben of like uber geniuses, the way they built this is that every single participant in and around the market gets to participate based on their level of understanding, desire to participate, or the assets that they hold in their portfolio. Meaning, you could own the tokens and participate. You could own the nodes and participate. Tokens and nodes and participate. You could own hardware and participate. You could have AI algorithms and participate. You could be a business to business customer and participate, or one or many or some or a few of those. So everybody gets to participate. So yes, that was a very long answer to your rather simple question, which is, and it's a good question. Yes, you can grab the node license, the 2-node bundle, and you can use it, or an 8 or 16, 32, 64, 128, 256, or the 512. But unfortunately, because of the price effects, if you go try to buy 524,288 tokens right now to feed a master node, you cannot get it done. The price impact last night was 67%. So think about that for a second. So for 524,449,000, so for right at $570,000, which should be the cost, right around $570K to run a master node with tokens, it'd cost you, do the math on that, home gamers, add 67% to that. Jeez. Okay, Joseph, that's a good question. No, when a node splits, each node then has half the earlier number of tokens. So as an example, you have 512 nodes. Like just keep this. Let's go down to one node. Don't think of a master node license. Think of one node. One node has 1,024 tokens. That's how you initiate that marriage, that adjoinment. So you take 1,024 tokens, you put them into the node license. Woohoo! We're off and running. You're now ready. Once you use some software, do a little handshake, whatever, you're going to be tilling. Great. Or you're going to designate those to somebody else. They're going to be tilling until compute starts in March. Okay. When that node splits, and I say when because if it's plugged in and running within 18 months, the minimum is 6, the maximum is 18. That mother effer is splitting. When it splits, you would then have 2 nodes of 512. When that splits, you would then have 4 nodes of 256 each. 10 splits gets you down to 1,024 nodes of 1. Right? Binary. Bing, 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 bing. You get it. Cool. All right. Yeah, they have children. They have a long lineage of children that, well, that end up working for you. So it's kind of like, I don't know, like a genetic sweatshop. Oh, I don't want to say that. That sounds bad. But it's all tech. It's all tech. Don't worry. I'm going to see the creator this weekend. I'm very excited about that. Anyway, that's enough dithering into the nonsense. Well, let's get this. Just staring at this price is driving everyone crazy, I'm sure. Let's get that off the screen. I want to. Oh, let me get rid of these guys. Go away. Okay, we're going to be talking some game theory. I think it's important. Oh, real quick, we have 409. So we've added a couple of digital investors. Hello, everyone. Hello. Yeah, so that's cool. We're building a lot of tools. Oh, real quick announcement about Node Market. As you guys know, the marketplace we're building all these tools. Just real quick, if you go to View Exchange, just remember that it's still in a test environment. Don't purchase anything. Don't do all that. This is all just test. That's why the OTC price looks so stupid. We're just testing things. Well, what's funny is this price looked stupid 4 days ago, and now it's 50%. Oh, God, whatever. Anyway, but yeah, we're doing a lot of testing. And so we're still 10, I don't know, a week to 10 days away, probably like 10 days, because once we have everything ready to go, we still need to go and resubmit things for code audits and all that kind of stuff. Is there any reason to marry them before compute? Yes, because you need to marry them for the nodes to be tilling unless you lend them. But if you lend them, you're lending them for a fixed period of time. Meaning someone, now, if you want, you could lend the nodes, someone else could build up the reputation, but they'd also be making the money when compute starts. And if you lent them for 24 months or something like that, right? I think 24 months is fair for people to think about. Like, I had no problem lending we lent the private clients and heavyweights. No, sorry. Private clients. We lent a big chunk of tokens, as you guys, well, it's not anything secret. We lent 51.380244 million tokens, 51 and change million. And for 2 years to Hyper PG. Why? Because 9% of an asset that we've already done almost a 20x on. So like, when you think about that, you look at your original investment, if you got a 20x on it, but you're getting 9%, it's not really 9%, is it? Because if you look at it in addition to your original investment, it's really 180% a year that you're getting on your original investment. And then you still have you still have 95% at the end of it. So like, game theory, math, currency units starts to make sense. Let's see. What could we expect if we lent nodes to a pool as a helper? Yeah, so expect about a 24-month hold. I don't know what the return is going to be. I just know that there's either the profit share version or the fixed revenue version. I would do the profit share version myself because that to me makes more sense. Like, as it rolls out, I want to be at a big facility where I have the best chance for success. Where can you purchase Hypercycle with Ethereum? Easiest way, well, Uniswap. So you want to have, I would say, have your Ethereum in your MetaMask wallet. Now, you can also go to MEXC, but I've not had success with that exchange. I got booted for being American, I think. Anyway, in MetaMask, you can do the swap, but you would lose a little bit. You would lose some slippage. So the cleanest way is to fund your MetaMask wallet and then use Uniswap to swap into Hypercycle. And you can do that directly with Ethereum. You don't need USDT. It's just it'll show you the relative price to keep things in check. All right, cool. So again, yeah, to sum up that, don't use node market yet. You can use it to buy nodes and all of that, right? Like you can go to node market and you say, oh, I want to buy a node license. Great. And you can come here and you can do all that. Yay. Super simple, bro. But what you should not do is go and do transactions here, because we're not quite there, but we're so close. Okay. And I'll try to spit through these in the next 5 minutes, and then we'll get over into our game theory. So nodes and tokens can be two separate investments, but when you marry them, that's where the magic begins. Yeah. Well, I mean, if you've owned the token, the magic already began. The only thing that we did is we went and stabilized the price of nodes, new nodes. Thing is, we're also creating a secondary market. You see that button that says explore nodes? Once your nodes are in production, we're going to have a marketplace for those, because as your node licenses that have been infused with tokens start to develop a reputation and eventually compute rolls out, that's a little business. That's a little data center. That little business has value. Think of it like a franchise, like a, I don't know, is Kentucky Fried Chicken a franchise, or are those owned by the company? Probably owned by the company. But McDonald's is a franchise, right? You get a McDonald's that's at capacity, or a Starbucks that's at capacity. It's time to open up another shop because you can't service any more people. And that's when the node splits, right? So as those nodes are in various stages of reputation, they're going to have a premium value. Does that make sense? And that premium is muy importante. So we're going to have a secondary marketplace for those. And rather than pull the tokens out and try to sell those, you should sell that as its own individual unit. We're going to create a marketplace for that. Yeah. Well, I mean, we are creating it. We're waiting for some code from the Hypercycle team, but that'll be too sweet. Probably October. I mean, sometime in October, which is what, 2 days from now, 3 days from now. So not too long. Okay. Question. Howard says, do you know any specific companies that will be using or waiting to use those Hypercycle? I don't know. Well, anything I do know would be under NDA. How about that? I'm not worried. That's all I'm going to say on that. I'm not worried about them finding clients. That is it. That is my statement. Hypercycle not available for, yeah, it's just, listen, the demand, as you guys know, we did the math. It's 5.2 tokens need for every one token that exists. So, I mean, it's not a lot of like hard math to see why where we be. Know what I'm saying? Yeah. So, and because game theory. All right. Abe. So what is needed to start with this venture? I need to have Hypercycle tokens per one node. Yes. One box and yes. Node licenses, all of, yes, but you don't need all of those. You need any part of those, because you can take your asset, whatever asset, and pledge it to either HyperPG or HyperPool. It just depends on what level of participation that you guys want. Dawn asks, so if you want to get credit for tilling and compute, you need to marry the tokens. I think October 15th and forward is when you need to get it done. Right now, you can just prepare and you have some time to think about it. And a day here, a day there won't matter, but reputation matters. If you wait until compute, you don't get credit for. That's right. If you wait until compute to marry them, your tilling essentially starts when you make the marriage. Compute is the next phase where you actually get paid for it, which is super cool. And yeah, and real quick, Abe, to kind of go on what Andy said, I think you'll be able to run. I think you'll be able to run tilling on a basic GPU, on a basic like gaming computer or something like that. I don't think you need a hyper AI box, although it'd make it a lot easier. I'm getting one because it's cool and badass. So like I'm getting one. That's just me. All right. if you lend my nodes in 24 months, then, well, they're going to add tokens, Frank. And then what you would do is you would decide, do you want to take them back, or are you making enough by lending them that you would just re-lend them? That's a decision you would make based on what the reward structure is at that time. Remember, these things are all going to be very organic and liquidy and gooey, and you'll be able to see in real time what's going on. 1 million worth of tokens purchased on ERC20, price impact 93%. Yeah. Hey, so listen. So if anybody wants right now, I'll make you a deal. No, I can't do that, but it would be. Brandon and I were talking about last night. We were talking about what if we, and who knows, contact us if this is interesting to you. But we thought, what if we did the back end work? Like, we found the tokens, sourced the tokens, put them together with a master node, and sold that bundle, like master node plus tokens. And then when October rolls around, we married them. And then it's basically, you already purchased them and we just hand it off to you already married. That new marriage, which will be a new NFT, which is the one with all the code that Hypercycle's working on that's so badass. Remember, don't think when you hear NFT, monkey pictures. That's not what this is. Non-fungible tokens just means non-transferable for like and kind, meaning each thing is unique. So the example I use is, if I give you a $10 bill today and I just say, hey, give me $10 next week, any $10 will suffice, right? 10 ones, a 5 and 5 ones, 5 twos, whatever, or any other $10 bill. But if I give you a $10 bill and I say, hey, next week, I need that $10 bill with that serial number, it's now non-fungible. Okay. So yeah, so what we were thinking, which might be cool, is simply we would do the work. We would source the tokens. We would put them all together. Like, I have a master node of tokens sitting right now. So I would probably go, okay, that plus some minimal price impact of, say, 20%. Like, I would put a 20% premium on it and say, here, it's yours. It would be a master node plus a token. If you want mine, it's like a master node plus a token plus 20%, right? Because you can't do that right now. Yeah, it would be, now it would be somewhere around what? 700, 650, 700. I don't know. Pretty soon it's real money, right? Anyway. We could do some math. It would probably be, what is it, 98 cents? So if you go, okay, here, let's do this. It'll be fun. 524, 288 times 0.98 equals plus 46K for the master node license equals, that's 559, probably times 1.2. So if you want mine, it's 675K. Although, if you do it the other way, you're going to pay $1 million. Let's see. You know what? Someone will probably email me about that, and I would be heartbroken if they did. I hope no one contacts me on that. I'd rather just keep it. Is it bad to go all in? No, not at all. Listen, if Singularity DAO is paying you a nice reward, at least right now while you're figuring things out, why would you not use that? Yeah, take that money. Dumb question. Define how you use the word marriage. Okay, so is that with the license? Yes, it's with the license. You use the box is simple. The Hyper AI box is a box that's purpose built to run one node for compute or a full master node for tilling. Okay, and that has to do with the dexterity of the hardware on the Hyperbox. But in order to begin to be in the system, to beacon that you're ready to do work, you adjoin, marriage, fuse, whatever is your favorite word, the tokens, 1,024 tokens into a node, a single node license. Okay. A master node is 512 of those single node licenses. That makes sense. There's no dumb questions, Kathy. Only apparently dumb people that I play online with in Population 1. All right. By the way, anybody that's playing, the MP9 sucks. It sounds awesome because it's suppressed and it's really quiet, but the gun's terrible. It has, unless you're right up in someone's face, you can't kill anybody with that thing. It's so slow. Anyway, It's probably dumb. I don't get the marriage part. Are we supposed to do something now? No, you don't have anything to do right now. Everybody, nothing. Only thing is, if you want to participate, you need to have the tokens available to do it. That's all. That's all. And Lance, always listen to your budget. Nobody here should get caught up in FOMO or excitement or whatever. Always listen to your wallet. Your wallet and your life dictates. No one can tell you anything about that except yourself. Except if I take out a business loan and start it. Yeah. Hey, listen, man, it is what it is. That's if you want a master node, though, Phil. I mean, a master node with all the tokens rocked and rolled. So do I need a license for every 1,000? No. It's the other way around, Brenda. It's if you plan on doing this, you would need 1,024 tokens for each license. It's not, you don't need a license. You need the tokens to marry to the license. Does that make sense? So it's kind of like flip it in your mind. But yes, you're basically right. Have you tried getting a business loan? Next to impossible. Oh, no one's going to loan you money on this. 1, no one understands crypto. 2, no one understands hypercycle. 3, I'm talking about bankers. 3, no one understands AI. So, yeah, that ain't happening. Okay, let's switch gears. We've kind of talked this up a lot, and there's a lot of material out there and content that you guys can consume. So what I do want to talk about, I want to talk about game theory. This is a better one. Because class is in session, we need to get this in. Let's forget about money for a second. Forget about all of the goings-ons having to do with currency units. Let's focus on the underlying, the mindset that we need to be using. Okay. And in my opinion, that is game theory. Did he get arrested again? Jesus, man. That's another one that I put him on the list. You guys, listen, I don't brag about much, but I will brag about this. My creep radar is on fleek. I can pull, listen, man, you know that I used to, that's probably divulging too much. Let me just say this. I used to do consulting for companies, and occasionally that consulting was sit in the room, pretend you're a secretary, listen to these people, and tell us if they're sketch. Because my sketch radar is very, I have a lot of decks. I have high fidelity sketch radar. Let me just put it that way. I can pick a jackass out of a crowd. All right. Anyway, found treasures. When a node splits, do you have to add? No, you do not have to add more tokens. Once you have married the tokens and joined them into a node, it can split 10 times, and you do not have to add tokens just the first time, just to get it started. Whew. He's like, yeah, God, what a, well, listen, let's not make fun of people that have, that go down. I mean, that guy deserves it because he was a creep and he ended up inadvertently stealing and hurting a lot of people. But you still, as a general rule, it's never good. I don't believe in karma, but whatever. Like, we shouldn't wish ill will. If the guy's messed up, he needs help. So I hope he gets the help he needs. But some people are so evil. I don't think he's evil. I think he's a dummy. He's a dummy that got over his skis. Evil is Bankman-Fried and that whole group of orgy, crypto bro, fake ass, financial gangsters that was living in the Bahamas. Evil is Do Kwon's garbage ass. Evil, I'm going to tell you this. Evil is people that manage a lot of money that are perpetually stupid and cost other people a lot of money. Like Novogratz. Those guys are evil because if you know you're stupid, if you know you're melting other people's life savings and you willingly move forward, fuck you. Those people are evil. People that just get caught up in the excitement and they've made a little money and they're not used to money. They sometimes are given to make mistakes, and you got to give people a little bit of space. Like, you hope they don't hang themselves. But once people are melting other people and they're willingly do it, then they need to go away, right? Like, It is what it is. All right, that's all we'll say. Okay, let's talk game theory. If we're talking game theory, that means class is in session.
Hello. You're late.
You're bad at math, but I'm giving you an A+ in confidence.
Just doing what I gotta do.
Extra credit.
So good. Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, today we are going to be diving into game theory. For those of you that have been around for a minute, you guys realize that game theory is it's the math that I use and that most of us use, whether we know it or not, to manage our decision-making processes. But sometimes we don't think about this. And there's a lot of steps in what we do. And this is just one part of it. Okay. But this one part is, I look at it as the foundation. It's a blend of math and strategy with real world implications, especially in the field of investment economics, evolutionary biology. And I talk about this a lot because it's the most important thing. A lot. Ben and I talked about this. Ben Gortzel and I talked about this on a podcast or a stream that we did a while back. And I mean, this is the math of behavior. It encompasses the strategic interdependencies or internal decisions made. But I think of it as the strategic interactions or interdependencies between the players in a game. Okay, so we're going to journey through a couple of historical examples today because I think historical examples sometimes get missed, and where you can see, oh, this is some game theory in action showcasing the actual value for like modern investors, which I would hope we are kind of modern forward-thinking investors that pay attention to our own cognitive biases and things like that. So let's talk Cold War. Yeah, Mashinsky's a piece of shit. That guy's garbage, dude. And lots of people lost a lot of money on Tika, but Tika is just a paid shill. I don't want to get off on that, but Tika is a paid shill. He doesn't own anything that he talks about. Matter of fact, I think they put that in small print. Yeah, Tika's a snake. But you know what? He's a good salesman. So as long as if you understand that and you get fleeced by him, it's kind of on you. There's a lot of bad guys out there that I certainly don't think Tika's the worst, right? He's just a salesman. The people behind Tika are much more sketch than Tika. He's an idiot though. He's definitely an idiot, but he's a damn fine salesman. Anyway, Cold War nuclear deterrence. Let's talk about the Cold War for a second. Let's get chilly. During the Cold War, as you guys probably know, I mean, most of us were probably too young, but the United States and the USSR, the Soviet Socialist Republic, right? They were in this kind of quasi-nuclear standoff, and the doctrine of MAD, mutually assured destruction, it had emerged from game theory principles, particularly this idea of Nash equilibrium. And the doctrine meant basically that if one country launched nuclear missiles, the other will retaliate, launching nuclear missiles, and this would ensure mutually the destruction of the whole planet, right? Like thus preventing a first strike. Because if you know, and I know, and we both know, and we realize that if I strike, you strike, you strike, I strike, we're all done. This prevents even the first strike. Now, there's a lot of scholarship that says that maybe you would have a first strike and then a period of detente where people would go, wait a minute. Do we really want to blow up the whole fucking planet? So you would hope that red phone works. I read, this is one of the most interesting bits that I read from Congress, but I read there were some hearings with the phone companies, and the idea that basically the point of the hearings was if there was a nuclear laydown, if there was a laydown of, for those of you that understand what an EMP cloud is and Compton radiation and things like that, I don't want to get too much in the weeds, but essentially at about around 30,000 electron volts. So if you had a nuclear weapon ignited in the atmosphere at a certain height of many hundreds of kilometers in the air, so not a ground explosion, but an explosion in the air, several hundred kilometers high. it rains down a cloud of what's called Compton radiation, which is about in or around 30,000 volts of electricity, right? And that cloud of Compton electrons, as it hits transformers and electrical devices, on that EMP cloud, electromagnetic pulse cloud, destroys everything electronic that's not inside a Faraday cage. Anyway, so there were these hearings that were talking about these different scenarios, nuclear scenarios, and how would you maintain cellular service? And the different companies were talking. And yeah, Catherine Shaw is actually also a kind of a not great guy. Anyway, but Shaw's an idiot. Shaw is just an old idiot fool. Sorry, it is what it is. But anyway, okay, so you have this, you have these cell phone companies at Congress, and they're all talking about how would you maintain. And so I think it was AT&T that said, well, we'll be fine. And the congressmen were like, well, what do you mean you'll be fine? They're like, well, it's simple. During the engagement, during the war, as different cities are obliterated, that will free up all of that cell traffic on the satellites. And they're like, what? They're like, yeah. See, first there's New York. Think of all the people in New York that use AT&T. Sure, there's going to be a lot of phone calls during a nuclear war, people checking on their loved ones. But once New York, Los Angeles, Denver, like once all the major cities are irradiated, that's going to free up all that cell traffic. All those satellites can have all that much more bandwidth. So we'll be able to maintain bandwidth because the cities that use the most bandwidth will be getting, atomized. So I thought that was a very interesting, but probably appropriate game theory observation from these cell phone companies. We'll be fine because everybody will cease to exist. So at the end of the world, there's probably a while there where we all have good cell phone service. Anyway, as it goes back to the USSR and the USA, the standoff led to a bunch of arms control agreements, legislation on both sides, and it ended up reducing the global nuclear arsenals by quite a bit, and it fostered a lot of diplomacy. And this showed the long-term impact of game theoretical strategies in nuclear geopolitics, which is kind of cool. Without this kind of understanding of game theory, you could have seen lesser individuals make a lot worse decisions that would have had much more, much worse claws into the future. So, game theory dictates a lot of these international discussions. Let's talk about the evolution of OPEC. So many of you know what OPEC, right? We all know what OPEC is, right? It's the Organization of Petroleum Exporting Countries, OPEC. And it used cooperative game theory to control, oil prices. If you go in 1973, so we're going back to the very beginning, there was an oil embargo led by OPEC, and it quadrupled oil prices, right? Because remember, these are the main countries that have all entered into this kind of collective agreement where they will cooperate on price control, right? Because there's a limited amount of oil and they need that resource. They want to make the most bang out of the buck. So in 1973, they quadrupled, they 4x'd the oil prices, showcasing, the kind of power that game theory has in global economic financial strategies, right? And so what happened is this embargo spurred a global push towards what? Energy security and alternative sources of energy, because people realized, these guys can do this. They can put their hands together and sing whatever is the OPEC version of Kumbaya, and they can jack us anytime they want. Now, obviously, high prices push the higher the prices for longer, push people more towards alternative sources of energy. But it demonstrated that game theory had influence on global price policy and economic stability. But look what it did. It created an evolution, or at least it created a push towards green energy and green innovation. I don't think that was their intention, but that was the outcome. So in this case, you could look at it as game theory on both sides. OPEC and that group of that cartel used game theory to set prices. That was a near-term, very finite goal. People playing the long game would have looked at alternative energy sources and thought, ooh, this tells us that that's the future. That's where we invest. If you did that, you won. Right? It's very interesting. In the near term, in the short term, they won. They were playing a different game. OPEC was playing a finite. That gets into finite and infinite game theory, which is really cool. Finite, essentially think of finite as short-term goals, infinite as long-term goals. Trading is finite, investing is infinite. Yeah? All right. And then let's talk real quick. We were talking about cell phone companies, so let's talk about the auction of spectrum. Do you guys remember the auctioning off of the 3G spectrum? I don't know if anybody kind of understands this, but in the early 2000s, countries auctioned 3G spectrum rights using game theory principles to maximize revenue and ensure a fair allocation of this resource distribution. So the UK, for instance, they generated 22.5 billion pounds from their 3G spectrum auction. Remember this? So this auction, and I won't get into the nuances of it, but maybe we'll do a full study of it. It's pretty interesting, but essentially this auction fueled mobile tech advancement, and it showcased how game theory drives technological progress and generated a significant amount of revenue for the participatory governments, right? Because you have this big space. So they essentially auctioned off spectrum, the 3G spectrum rights, and just let everybody bid and buy and all that. They created a lot of currency units, but it was all game theory based. You can get into auction where you start looking at Vickery auctions and things like that. Auction theory is a whole subset of game theory that's very interesting. It's also has a lot of implications for computer science. For those that want to dig in, look at how the Vickery, you could get really nitty gritty, but this stuff is so interesting. Look at how Vickery, just how it sounds, Vickery auctions evolved in computer science. Because this was a not easy problem to solve. And I'm not going to go into it now, but again, that's a whole game theory is so worthy of study, and it helps you make such good decisions. It's just incredibly valuable. But anyway, you see it over and over and over. So, and in this case, these auctions fueled a bunch of advancement in the mobile tech space. And again, it showed how game theory can drive not only tech progress, but regional revenue generation in a way that still has the best outcomes. And Dawn, to your question, what is the relationship between game theory and unintended consequences? Well, I think in game theory, you're looking for the interactions or interdependencies of these players in a game, and you're assuming if the other individual or individuals are rational individuals, what are their likely decisions based on the rules that we have, based on this frame, right? But anytime you try to assume too far ahead, you start to introduce a lot of noise, a lot of hallucination. And unintended consequences are like this. If I have two balls on a pool table and I hit one ball into the other, with a fair degree of accuracy, especially if I'm a really good player, I can predict with a fair degree of accuracy I know what the first interaction is going to be, and I can predict some of the secondary and tertiary interactions. I can, if I hit the ball straight on, I can predict that it's going to hit the wall. It's going to come right back. It's going to hit the ball that I use. It's going to hit the white ball again, and there's going to be another interaction. And I can, again, the more control, the more skill I have, I can do. If you introduce two balls, it gets logarithmically a magnitude more difficult. If you introduce three balls, it's not 3 times more difficult. It's orders of magnitude more difficult. It's the square. It's the 3. It gets way more complicated. If you look at a weather system, there's so many particle interactions that our ability, at least human ability to predict weather, only goes out a few days because there's so many particle interactions that's very difficult to predict. So unintended consequences especially if you want to learn a lot about this, Don, go listen to Economics in One Lesson by Henry Hazlitt. It's a little old and dated, but it's great to go deeply inside the kind of the underpinnings of unintended consequences of a variety of like social projects, taxes, stipend, stimulus, all this kind of stuff, just in the financial space. But you also have a lot of unintended consequences of behavior, just even in, even if you look at evolutionary biology, right? Because our ability to predict is just very limited. And a lot of that will get better over time. We'll get more predictability, especially with AGI. But there are still just some properties all the way down to the, go down to the particle physics and the quantum effects at the Planck length and things that are, there's a certain amount of unpredictability because of quantum effects, which we probably won't get past. Anyway, but long story short, among us human investors, we can make a fair degree of near-term predictability. I say near-term, 2 to 3 years, which can, make us, get us into the rich or wealth mindset, and certainly make your portfolio look a lot sweeter. How about that? Game theory aids people like us, the modern investor, in anticipating market reactions, because it's just a market of other humans that probably aren't doing as much work as we are, right? It helps us evaluate competitors. It helps us evaluate teams, to evaluate projects and the tokenomic structure and their leadership. It helps us make good decisions, good, sound, game theoretical decisions. And the historical examples we talked about, Cold War and OPEC and 3G, the spectrum auctions, things like that. It helps show you that in practical terms, the essence of game theory is all over the place, all the time. And so everybody's involved in game theory. It's the people that don't know it that are on the losing side of it, right? And so through these kind of historical lessons, you'll see game theory's impact on these kind of critical global junctures, right? So, and the principles of game theory continue to provide a framework for us to navigate complex markets. It reduces the noise, right? And it emphasizes the value of game theory strategies in making informed and very strategic and very repeatable processes to our investment journey. So I would keep that in mind. And especially as you're looking at markets the way they are right now, and you're trying to think about this, don't think about money, not directly. Think about the game theory among the players in this game, right? Reduce it to the humans and to their decisions. Is it really? Dear God, let me look. No, it's only 99.88 cents. Liar. Just kidding. Oh shit. Now I'm the liar. All right. Well, on that note, be smart. Slow down. We'll have a fun show tomorrow. Brandon will be back. We will rock and roll. Don't FOMO, right? Just go slow. I think everybody can go slow and do just fine. Remember that rich, poor, wealth, poverty, these are mindsets. I've slept on a lot of fucking couches and I never felt poor. And even when we were kids and sometimes we weren't in me and my brother weren't stupid. We knew when our family was not, we grew up kind of lower middle class, whatever. We knew when things weren't right. It was that unsettled, we've never quite made it feeling that made me decide to invest so much effort in learning all about this stuff so that I could make sure I never experienced that. But these are mindsets. Money is a tool that you use to purchase your life back, moments of your life. So think of it that way. And remember, money at its simplest form is not this or that. Money is anything which extinguishes debt. That's money. Currency definitely helps you do that. But you know what helps you get more currency units? Game theory. That's right. All right. Stay in school. Don't do drugs. Don't do anything my poor, insolvent, drunk, strung on meth grandmother would not do, which you know is very, very little. We'll see you tomorrow. For those of you that are interested in digital investor, you should do it because it will help fine-tune these skills. And throw a like on the video if you can, because remember, we don't monetize any of this shit, and there's a reason you don't ever see commercials. Like those stupid little commercials with the dude talking about tchotchkes or whatever. That guy really irks me. Or the dude that's like 22 and he's going to tell you how to become a billionaire. You're like, shut up, dude. You're worth like $8. Okay, I got to stop ranting. I'm out.
Are you tired of all the uneducated noise you're getting from the droves of YOLO meme coin peddling douchebag gurus out there trying to use you as their exit liquidity? Would you rather learn a competent university-level set of skills that will guide you in managing and investing for the rest of your life? Join us 3 days a week at Digital Investor. Develop your knowledge of game theory, cognitive bias, macroeconomics, monetary theory, investment theory, psychology of the crowds, and more. For more info on Digital Investor and how it can help you, reach out at nickblacknext.com.